greetings, Cap fans. Welcome to episode 202 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Verbanis. And as always, I'm joined by the best gosh darn co-host out there. His name is Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob. I've never seen so many men wasted so badly.
I don't have any idea where that's from.
I would be surprised if you did.
Sounds like a hell of a party, though.
It really is.
Yeah.
And in this reference, though, it wasted meant killed.
Oh, yeah, that's not like a good party at all.
No.
Yeah.
Let me give you a hint.
Please.
The actor who said the line, his first name is Clint.
Oh, is it a Clint Eastwood movie?
It is.
Okay. Wasn't the only one I could think of is Dirty Harry off the top of my head. But
oh, Bob, when are you gonna put two and two together of what we're covering in the show tonight?
I don't. Should I know Clint Eastwood's movies? I don't know.
Sometimes I get so disappointed. Tonight we're doing a recap of Deadpool, Vol.5. Issue 15 through 19, starring Deadpool, Wolverine, and Captain America. The name of that story is...
Oh, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes.
Oh, you're so smart.
Oh, gosh.
Such a clever guy.
It's been 200 episodes. You'd think you'd kind of like connect the dots one of these times.
The thing is, I got to be honest with you here. I know this probably isn't going to go over well with a lot of the listeners, but I was not a big, I like Westerns. Not a big fan of the Clint Eastwood spaghetti Westerns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Fistful of Dollars, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah. So I don't think I've seen them more than maybe once or twice.
Oh, I can't whistle right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be able to do that. I used to be able to whistle, and I can't lately. I don't know why. Yeah. Wah, wah, wah. Right? It's like, it's so classic. Anyway, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the line from the movie I picked was, I've never seen so many men wasted so badly. I thought it was apropos to the story we're covering tonight because there's going to be a lot of men wasted pretty badly. Anyway, so Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, Rick. Yeah. I mean, everything's going along fairly nicely. Not that I want to jinx myself. I don't want to jinx myself, but yeah, things are going okay.
What are you doing here? You're like checking out. What do they call it? The gullet, the dangle. What are we talking about here?
Well, unlike some of our hosts who have this facial hair and have gotten used to it, if I don't shave for more than a day, it starts to feel itchy. I don't like it. So I only can make it a day or two before I got to shave again. So right now it's starting to
you're pulling at the neck, right in that one area.
Do you recommend some moisturizer? Is there something you use to keep your beard supple? Maybe.
No. Much to the chagrin of my wife, I don't. No. What was that show? Was it Ally
has that sheen?
Did you? Yeah. Beautiful. Did you ever watch Ally McBeal?
Well, no, I didn't. I'm familiar with it, but no, I didn't.
Back in the day, gosh, what was that? The 90s? I think it was a 90s show, right? And there was a guy, one of the lawyers on there, he had a fetish for what do they call it? The gullet? The
giblet? Is it
something? Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a name for it. And he would be like,
I think I do remember that.
He would just go go up to and because women of a certain age start to develop that.
Yeah.
And so he had kind of this I want to say summer fall relationship going on with this older woman. And she had that, and it was a big thing.
Yeah. All right.
I wasn't sure if you were showing me a fetish because you just kept playing with it. So
well, take it however you want, Rick. Whatever makes you feel good. Peace, love, and understanding, bro.
Yeah. Hey, you do you.
Exactly.
I'm an ally, Bob. You do you.
I'll tell you tonight. my wife was on the phone because you're familiar with the company that works with a lot of cell phone companies, a lot of electronics, and they offer like insurance, right? Sometimes you get it on Amazon, AT&T, T-Mobile. They all offer like insurance on your phones. You pay a little bit a month. It's a terrible deal. But anyway, we got it on my son's phone, and his phone broke, and so she was on the line with this guy. It took her like an hour to get to a live rep, and I'm not sure
No,
where this
that's
guy was.
horrible.
I think it was like Eastern European or something like that. But he was like the smoothest talker, to the point where I felt like I had to leave the two of them alone and just go into a different room because he was just like a really smooth dude. She's like, I really feel like we have a connection. So like, okay, well, I'm gonna go take my shower. You two just,
No wonder it took an hour to get on the phone.
maybe,
This guy's pretty busy,
yeah. So
uh,
anyway, yeah.
so Bob, we have a guest today,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we've plugged it in the last episode, talking about that we're going to have Batroc himself, Jon Waller Sewell, join the show, and he's going to do a recap with us. Now, when we for those who may be new to the show, and you've probably listened recently, you're like, oh, well, you guys, you do this, you act out the comic, and we do that quite often. But we also have something we call a recap, and that is where we just kind of talk about the comics. We don't actually act them out. And so we save that for when we have a story that has multiple issues, or else we'll be here all night. And so we think it's it's a little quicker to kind of get through it. But we didn't want to skip out on this story because it's a story starring Deadpool and Wolverine, which I don't know if you heard. There's a little movie out about that, and Captain America. And so we thought we would do this story, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And we thought one of the trio of Good, Bad, and the Ugly we should have on the show, and that is Jon Sewell. Hi, Jon. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. And Rick, please don't call yourself ugly. That's just shameful.
I don't have to. I don't have to. Too many other people do it. If we did have a nicknames for us rather than Good, Bad, and Ugly, what would our three nicknames be? What would the trio be?
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I know two bald guys, right? Like, I would be I would just be Shorty. There you go. That's what I would be.
Nice. I guess I could be just going with the theme, Clueless. So
there you go. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Jon. It's always nice having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Jon, I don't know if you know this, but we do a little thing here on the show where we like to celebrate birthdays of comic creators.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. If you listen to a show, you probably would know that. But
of course I know.
Fast forward through
he skips to the part. Yeah. What part am I on?
The 10-second.
Yeah. But if you're listening on the when this show comes out, which is August 21st of 2024, celebrating a birthday. Well, maybe not celebrating a birthday, but having a birthday today on August 21st is Marie Severin. Now, Marie, for those who may not know, and shame on you, that just shows your age. Marie is a legend when it comes to doing covers. She has done so many different covers in the Marvel universe over the years. She did a lot of Captain America covers too.
Any of your favorites, Rick?
Oh, Bob, there's too many to name. And these mostly are in 1970, although there was one in 1969 too. So she did covers for Cap 115, 124-25, 127-28, 130, 130 to 133. So yeah, she's done a ton of covers for Captain America, and then many more for other characters throughout the Marvel universe.
Yeah. She famously redrew the face on Hulk for that king size special issue, Hulk #1, that was done by Steranko. Apparently they didn't like the Hulk face.
Yep.
So it looked like Stranko. So
Probably. He did
Probably.
like to draw himself, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There does. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah. Another birthday coming up in about a week almost. Don Perlin, August 27th. And Don had done a lot of Marvel work. And then he was actually one of the top artists for when Valiant first launched back in the day. I remember going to a comic book convention in Baltimore and getting him to sign Bloodshot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
He's
didn't realize he was involved with Bloodshot.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so happy birthday to Marie and Don.
Almost sounded like I started hearing Donnie and Marie in my head.
Are you a little bit country?
I'm a little bit rock and roll, Rick, you know.
Okay. Yeah. I should have thought that through. All right. So, guys, I think we've all seen Deadpool Wolverine, the movie. Should we talk about it?
Absolutely.
Why not?
All right. And for those who haven't seen Deadpool Wolverine, you can go ahead and maybe skip 10 minutes or so and let us kind of get through this because we don't want to give you any spoilers. I mean, the movie's been out for a month. I don't think there's anything we're going to spoil for you that you haven't already been spoiled if you haven't seen it. But that being said, fair warning. All right. Now everybody's seen Deadpool 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And everybody liked Deadpool 1 and 2?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. What were your thoughts on Deadpool Wolverine? John, you're a guest. You start first.
Well, thank you. Deadpool Wolverine, I felt like was an incredibly well balanced movie. Coming out, it kept being like it was marketed as if it was Deadpool 3. And that's not what this was. This was truly a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. So I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And I thought it did a great job of honoring both of the main characters.
I 100% agree with you, John. I was it had great arcs for both Wade and Logan, and I think they tied it in really well with the prior movies, both the Fox 20th Century Fox movies, but also previous Marvel movies as well, and introduced some great new characters as well. I can't remember what was the TVA guy's name. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but
Paradox.
Paradox. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The guy who played him was, I thought, phenomenal, right? Added so much humor, but also sort of a sinister humor to the movie as well. And so, I mean, I enjoyed the movie tremendously. One of the colleagues that I at my place of work had seen it about a week before I did. She's a huge Marvel fan. She had me a little worried because she came back and said, I'm familiar with Deadpool movies, but this one, the humor was a bit much for me, and it was a bit like Thor Ragnarok. No, Love and Thunder, and she wasn't really impressed. So I was a little concerned going into the movie, but yeah, sometimes the humor was a bit in your face, maybe, but I thought most of the movie worked really, really well, and it was a big departure. I thought where I think Love and Thunder didn't quite nail it. Deadpool and Wolverine did nail it.
Wow. I can't believe comparing it to Love and Thunder. That movie, I just was not a fan.
Well, I know, me either.
Yeah. Talk about forced humor. Like I loved Ragnarok. Loved Ragnarok. I thought it was so good. And then I think they were just trying to emulate that success with Love and Thunder, and it just felt so forced. I really didn't think the Deadpool Wolverine humor was forced any more than Deadpool 1 and 2 humor. I thought it was pretty spot on and consistent with those movies. I tell you what I did miss. I missed the sarcastic opening credits. Like the first two Deadpool movies, had written by, two idiots, and, starring somebody who whatever. Like it was just kind of all tongue in cheek kind of stuff in the first two movies, and they didn't do that in this movie. I mean, it was pretty cool with the credits with the opening fight scene with the TVA
The dance
and
sequence. Yeah.
yeah, using the animatium. We'll leave it at that. But I thought the credits, yeah, they did the credits there, but it wasn't that. And I was a little disappointed in that. But if that's my biggest criticism of the movie, I'm not going to complain. I really did enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to wrap your head around, don't you think? Like, I mean, because they were crossing so many timelines. I don't know. I mean, I still see people arguing in social media about like.
Wait a minute. People argue on social media?
Trying to make sense of like where exactly that Wade was and where that Logan was and where they fit in, where that X-23 was from, and so I think it was I thought it was a fairly complicated movie, but I still nevertheless done well and entertaining and leaves a lot of room for where things might go in the future.
Yeah, I don't think they were kidding when they said, you're going to be doing this until you're 90, to Hugh Jackman. We all kind of thought like, all right, well, Ryan Reynolds, in his friendship with you kind of twisted his arm and he's like, all right, I'll do the movie and that would be it. But apparently I don't think it is, even though the ending kind of makes it question, like, am I going to see you again type of thing. But would anybody here be surprised if there's not at least one more, if not more than one more, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine?
I'd be really surprised if there weren't. If he doesn't show up in Secret Wars, I mean, that's a waste.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who's to say that some of these other characters that were, cameos don't show up in Secret Wars?
Yeah, the cavalry.
The what?
The cavalry.
The cavalry. Have you not been seeing that word going around social media?
I have not. No.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Henry Cavill is Wolverine with the tank top working on the motorcycle. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Smoking.
I mean, hell, Deadpool straight up said, "We'll treat you a lot better than your previous group did."
I want to see that really, really short Danny DeVito one. That's what I want.
Okay, so that brings up a question then. When he was hopping through trying to find his Logan to take the anchor position, was there one in particular that just absolutely like just grabbed your attention?
Oh,
Since presenting the question, I'll go ahead and chime mine in. For me, it was Age of Apocalypse. Man, I geeked out hard when I saw AOA Wolverine.
Yeah, he was mean. He was.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mark Silvestri X-Men cover, where he's nailed up to the X. That was really cool to see that. And then you see people, charging an arm and a leg for, for that comic now.
Right.
And it's like, why? Yeah.
Well, I kind of like the one he ended up with. So who doesn't like a redemptive arc, right? And that was, I think, both of these stories had a really strong redemptive arc, and I'm a sucker for that. So I love that they ended up, maybe we'll talk about this, in this story as well that we're going to cover tonight. But I love that at the end of the movie, they end up a little bit more than adversaries, right? Or antagonists, right? There's a connection there now. And so I'm really curious to see where that goes forward in future movies as well.
Yeah, I will say I enjoyed that aspect. The whole buddy kind of odd couple kind of thing. But let's get to the thing that Cap fans were pretty excited about, maybe for just a millisecond. And so again, spoiler alert, go ahead, make sure you fast forward 5 minutes here. But when Chris Evans was found in the wasteland. I don't remember what it's called. And then you see him, and he's got the hood, and so I had instantly thought of Alex Ross, Earth X, Captain America, with the hood,
Mm-hmm.
and then when he comes up and you see it's him, and Deadpool's like, say it, and you're just like, and by the way, and as soon as I saw it was Chris Evans, this guy in the theater went, yes.
Much to the chagrin of Hayden and Megan.
They probably, yeah, they're so used to it. But and then of course he, instead of saying what you think he's gonna say with the Avengers Assembly, he says flame on. I was I don't know if I don't know if I was relieved or if I was, I wasn't disappointed. I don't know if it was like I was excited or if I was relieved, because kind of like, yeah, don't touch Cap. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
if Chris Evans ever returns as Steve Rogers, it should be handled in a really good way, in a dramatic way, as opposed to kind of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of movie. So maybe I was a little bit relieved, and then also kind of like, good one. Wow, I like that. Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't he, before they did the whole reveal, didn't he have like red cloth wraps
Yeah.
even around? So there was a whole red, white, and blue thing going on there. There's a lot of blue, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to get you going in that direction so that they could hit you with the swerve, and I loved it.
It's been a long time since I saw the Fantastic Four films. Did he have a Boston accent in those films? He had a really
Oh,
heavy accent in in this movie.
I don't remember. I
And
really don't remember.
I
Yeah.
was surprised, actually.
I don't think I've seen them since they were in the movie theater.
Yeah, probably not me either. Yeah,
I
Yeah.
don't recall that being the case, but maybe.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I do want to hear, how do we do this? Like, I don't want there to be spoilers for people who haven't seen the movie, but I do want to hear from our Cap listeners. Did you think that it was Cap when you saw him, when you saw the character at first? And were you disappointed, pleased, neither, when it was revealed that it was Johnny Storm instead? I want to hear from our listeners. Um, Listeners, whether you are on YouTube or on our Facebook page, maybe you can leave a comment and just be a little subtle about it. Uh, just say, I didn't expect the cameo or something. I don't know, but I want to hear.
Or just write it in Pig Latin.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
no one will crack that code. Any other comments about the movie before we move on to today's comic?
I had really good nachos.
At the movie theater?
Yeah, so I was excited about that. My son didn't want to go with me, Rick. I'm jealous that Hayden went with you and Megan went with you. I asked Casey and Bobby if they wanted to go, and they both went no. So I went by myself, man. But I had the best nachos.
Were they the Lord's chips?
They were indeed. Yeah. Yeah, I had a nice beer with it. It was awesome.
Oh, nice. I had beer and popcorn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Living the dream, man.
Did you guys see the popcorn buckets?
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's the Wolverine with like the big open mouth.
Yep. Yeah. Saw that.
I saw somebody do something very, very crude. And I think it was on Facebook. It was in a comic group or something. It may be in the group that you guys are in with me, like the Wretched Hive or something. But they put something in his mouth. And it was like, oh no, I can't unsee that.
Yeah. Well,
I'll have to send it to you guys if I see it. I'm editing that out.
That's definitely going to reduce the price of it on eBay. for the resale.
Yeah.
So resale value went that way down. So.
All right. Well, let's get to today's comic.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is,
"Thank you for calling. Please listen to your list of 46 possible service options."
which is why when you choose USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable. 24/7 online service for claims, access to roadside assistance, and more. All at the touch of a button. Start getting the service you deserve. Get a quote today. Ability to receive a quote depends on membership eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
So, as I mentioned, it is the good, the bad, and the ugly in Deadpool Volume 5, issues 15 through 19. And it is a story that came out in 2013. So it had a cover date of October of 2013, but the release date was August 28th. How about that? Almost 11 years to the day that this story came out. And the creators, I think we should talk about the creators. So the writers, there's two. There's Gerry Dugan, who is I believe he is the scripter. And Brian Posehn is, I think, the plotter. And Bob, are you familiar with Brian Posehn?
The name doesn't ring a bell, Rick, but
he's actually an actor, writer, stand-up comedian.
Really?
Yeah. Did you ever hear of the TV show Mr. Show on HBO?
I think so. Yeah.
With
Yeah,
David Cross.
Right.
Yeah, he was on that. And then he was in Big Bang Theory. He's been on Mandalorian. He's been on a lot of different TV shows. He's made guest appearances on Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, Friends. And he had a reoccurring role on Just Shoot Me. So but I always knew him as a stand-up comedian, and he still tours. So it was interesting when he came on to do Deadpool. And so obviously Deadpool does have a lot of humor in it, right? So it makes sense to have a humor writer like Brian Posehn. And then Gerry Dugan, he is been a writer for many years, and he actually, I think Brian stayed on the book for a little while, and then I think Gerry stayed on after him. But yeah, Gerry started writing not too long before this. He was I think he did like Fear Agent for Dark Horse, and then his first Marvel work was this Deadpool series. And then he was doing that for quite some time. He wrote a bunch of other Deadpool comics over the years. Besides this volume, he did the miniseries Deadpool: The Gauntlet Infinite comic, and Hawkeye versus Deadpool. He did. And then I think it was Mrs. Deadpool and the Howling Commandos. So he's certainly been around Deadpool for quite some time, and more than one volume too. And then the penciler for this particular story is Declan Shalvey. And Declan started out with Marvel in 2010 doing Thunderbolts. John, you're a big Thunderbolts fan, right?
I do enjoy Thunderbolts, yes.
I seem to recall when I had my store that you were a customer in the store, for those who don't know. And I do remember Thunderbolts being on your pull list.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed Thunderbolts from the time it came on and pulled the big swerve and shocked the world with its first issue back in the day. And that time period, I think that was around the time of Dark Reign. And Norman Osborn was running things.
Yeah. Well, Declan had been an artist on Thunderbolts for quite some time. And then he was doing Venom. He did when he came on, he did Deadpool. He did these 5 issues. Then he went on to do the Moon Knight miniseries in 2014. he then kind of shift in, I want to say in 2016, to doing writing and penciling, and then more recently just writing. So he's been around for a while as well. Then the colorist is Jordi Belair, letterer Joe Sabino, and editor Jordan White. Just I was thinking about this, John. Before this is volume 5. Volume was it volume 2? I had the writer Daniel Way in the store. You remember that?
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
remember Daniel.
Yeah, that was in 2008. We had him in the store, and it was really cool because just launched the new Deadpool series, and then he had also, like a year before, launched the Wolverine Origins series, which he was still writing that. So he was doing Wolverine Origins and Deadpool at the same time, and we had him in the store as a writer. And I remember this because I think I took him out for lunch, and I had the biggest hangover, and I'm sitting in this restaurant with him, and I don't know why I had it, because it wasn't like it was one of those nights that just stuck up on me for whatever reason. Like it wasn't, it was out of the blue, and I just remember sitting at lunch with him, having a really good time, going, "Oh my God, I feel like crap, but I can't not sit here and have lunch with Daniel Way."
That is really, really funny and a little bit perhaps ironic, because you fast forward like a year or two after that appearance at your store, and our mutual friend Doug Hogan and I are at a convention, and we're waiting on Daniel to get to his table. And he kind of comes in a little bit bleary eyed and everything like that. And he's like, "Oh, guys, I remember you guys from the store. I'm so glad I am so hungover right now."
Oh, wow. That's funny. All right. So let's get back to this story with this creative team. And so I thought, guys, we would since we're going to do a recap and we're going to cover kind of like each taken issue, and kind of go through the summary of it, and then maybe kind of talk through some of the things that stand out in that issue that you really like. And then ultimately, right, we're going to get through these 5 issues, and then at the end maybe just kind of talk as a group of, overall what we thought of the story.
Sounds like a plan.
That's great.
All right, I'll kick us off with the first part of this 5-parter, and that is in Deadpool number 15. And like all the issues, there's this little recap in the beginning where Deadpool, breaking the fourth wall, tells the reader what has been going on leading up to this story. And it's done in the Deadpool is done in a, what is it called, a chibi style? Is that right, John?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Very good.
So it's a Japanese kind of art. It's almost like a bobblehead kind of, big head, small body, a little cartoonish. So it's called chibi style. So here's this Deadpool breaking the fourth wall, talking about what's led up to this point. And, I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to read that just to get our listeners up to speed on what came before this story. So Deadpool says, "Hey there, dear readers. My name is Deadpool, the Mork with the Orc," or something like that. "Basically, I am a mercenary who makes with the funny jokes and pop culture references, nice topical ones like Mork and Mindy," which is funny because, it's not topical. And then there's another voice. Now, I haven't read Deadpool in many years, so I was expecting the other voice to be sort of like when Daniel Way was writing him, which had actually, I think, 3 voices in his head that were all talking to each other. And so I was anticipating that. And because you could see it's in a different font or different box with a different color, as opposed to Deadpool's yellowish boxes. And you hear the voice for all the Gary Marshall fans out there, and you see an image of a black lady wearing looks like a Deadpool suit. And Deadpool explains, that's Agent Preston, the deceased-ish shield agent I have stowed away in my brain with me until I find her a new home. And speaking of, can we get on with that? I'll get to it. For now, I need to deal with these people who keep knocking me out and stealing my organs. And then there's an image of Deadpool and someone behind him just kind of carving out something in the back. And you see all these different scars, like this isn't the first time. Apparently, it's happened a bunch. But the most recent time, I got the drop on them. But they all got dead. Because you killed them. Only most of them. But before the last one died, she told me about a guy named Butler who's in charge. That's right. The Butler did it. And so that's a nice little recap. So now we know that he's got this other voice in his head, but it's actually a person, a SHIELD agent by the name of Agent Preston. And he wants to help her and get her a new body, I guess. But we also know that this guy named Butler, who is in charge of this team that would constantly attack Deadpool to harvest his organs. Very interesting. So we cut to the this. It says then, so this is in the past, and we see an older gentleman wearing a suit and glasses, and he's there in a laboratory that looks like it hasn't been used in many years, and there's a scientist there in a coat, and he's basically grilling him on what happened. And this is again many years ago. So Dr. Butler arrives at the secret Weapon X facility, and he discovers that one of the subjects, Wade Wilson, was apparently cured of cancer, but he had been driven insane by the procedure. And then learning that they allowed Wilson to escape, they didn't really, they just kind of threw him out with the trash. Butler shot the head scientist and he took command, ordering surveillance on Wilson and then have a tank be prepared for his cancer-stricken beloved. And then we cut to Manhattan now. And we see that Deadpool is about to break into this building, a high-rise building, and he's in the top, and he's kind of going in, and he gets into the kitchen, and I like this. He actually takes out the kitchen help with tranquilizers, which is nice. And then it's like a really classy hotel that he breaks into, and he's basically trying to reach Wolverine. So he gets into Wolverine's bedroom, and he's kind of dressed as a waiter. And Wolverine is in bed with his shirt off, and he's basically not happy to see Deadpool. And Deadpool explains to him that he thinks that someone is out to get him and all the other Weapon X graduates based on the previous issues. And he wants Logan's advice and wanted to know if he knew anybody named Butler. And Logan basically brushes him off. So Wade is leaving. Now, I love this part. So he's leaving, and as he's leaving, he says, "Bye, Storm." And then you notice on the other side of the bed, there's a lump underneath the covers, and there's like ... "Bye, Wade." So apparently Storm was under the covers and hid when Deadpool came in. Guys, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, what can you say? Good for those two. They're both adults.
Even Agent Preston herself chimes in, is like, those two getting freaky ? It was kind of a little bit of a surprise. But then again, when you think about it, it's not too much of a surprise because Logan's kind of a man slut.
Well, yeah, but Storm isn't.
Takes one to know one.
Hey, no arguments.
And I like also that Preston says that girl should know better.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Knowing that feeling, I should say, that Weapon X graduates are being, I guess, attacked or watched or whatever, he decides to go to see none other than our favorite, Captain America. And so we cut to, this is supposed to be a few hours later, at SHIELD Operation Hammer and Anvil. And we see Cap taking on a whole bunch of AIM agents, and Deadpool shows up. And he basically, joins and starts to help Captain America, and asks if he knows of anyone who is targeting super soldiers, which Cap does not. But he does give Deadpool some advice, and he basically tells him that he needs to seek an ally. He says, my point is that you've been out in the cold for a long time, Deadpool. Nobody to talk to but yourself. Maybe it's time to see where you fit in the world. Good luck. And so, it was only 2 pages, but it's cool to see Cap in action and Deadpool in action. So, there's a point where Cap, throws his shield at the same time Deadpool's throwing a live grenade. There's a point where Deadpool retrieves Cap's shield and he takes it and he uses it against an AIM agent, but then he throws it to Cap, and Cap doesn't even look. I always love this. I don't know about you guys. I love when Cap just has his arm behind him and just catches it, much like Thor does with his hammer. The difference is Thor knows where it's going, right? He knows it's coming to his hand because he's willing it. Cap doesn't know, but it's like a sense, right? Like he hears the wind, or he feels something, a movement of some sort. He just knows, and it slides over his hand with the straps. I know that's impossible, but it's always been something I always thought was cool.
I loved Cap made it a little funny here, right? Because he's talking about how important it is to find somebody to talk to, somebody who could help you work through your problems and fix your head. And then of course Wade says, yeah, maybe I should go, talk to somebody like a therapist. And Steve says, well, I was referring to my barber. So
right.
nice little Steve Rogers, clean joke.
Yeah. I gotta say, I am not a fan of the uniform Cap is wearing.
Is that the Marvel Now uniform?
Yeah, I just don't like the helmet.
You don't like the painted on wings?
I don't like the paint on wings. I don't like the little dip in the back of the neck, that kind of comes out a little bit, like a, motorcycle helmet or something. And I really don't like the strap on the chin. I don't like chin straps on my Cap.
The thing is, though, Rick, you want that little thing in the back if it's raining. So, because the last thing you want is that water to run off the top of your helmet down the back of your shirt. So,
you should know, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's why that's there. So it's funny,
Did you have that on your helmet?
It's not as pronounced as this, but certainly, strangely enough, on like German helmets, German World War II helmets, that was
it totally looks like a German helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, those German engineers, they knew what they were doing.
They do. It wasn't just aesthetics. Yeah.
I'll tag in real quick about just the humor as well. Back on the first page where he's going to see Cap. And after Wade's kind of explaining the whole thing, Steve adds, I'm terrified. Just like in bold font and everything. Deadpool's like, you are? He's, yes, I can actually follow the logic of you coming to me.
Right.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. It's like, you're making sense. All right. So then we cut to later that night. There's a Chinese food cart in Manhattan, and Deadpool is sitting there. He's got his mask half up. We've probably seen this with Spider-Man, 100 times, right? Where he's got his mask half up so he can eat, but still keep his secret identity. And he's there and he's talking with Agent Preston. And at some point, he decides that he needs to do something about the being followed and being captured. So he pulls his pants down, and Bob, what does the guy behind the counter say?
Hey, No bathroom here.
Oh, Bob. He could have very well been like born, raised, second generation here in Manhattan. You had to go and give him that accent. Love it.
Yeah. Hey, I lived in Asia for many years, Rick. So
If anybody could do it.
yeah.
Yeah, and so he's pulling his pants down. And what do we see, John?
We see what looks to be a knockoff Fantastic Four logo, except there's only a number 2.
I don't get the joke.
I don't either. Yeah.
There's a 2 on the front, but I don't get the Fantastic 2 on the front, right? Like if it was on the 1 in the front and 2 in the back, maybe I could get the joke,
you know, get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of, just because you have the pink blocks and the yellow voice box, I took it as just a sign that he had 2 people running around in his head, that he's the Fantastic 2.
But why there, John?
Why not?
Why not? There you go.
Why?
As good an answer as any.
I mean, if you're going to wear underoos.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. So he ends up taking out a knife and carving a nice little chunk in the side of his leg so that he can insert Ant-Man in a condom. Well, that's what he says anyway, as a joke to Agent Preston. It's actually a tracking device. Speaking of which, oh my God, tangent time. So do you guys watch The Boys?
Yes.
I have not watched the current season.
Okay. So you watched the first 4 seasons?
I watched the first 3.
Okay. Oh yeah. The first 3. Then the current was 4. Okay. We're behind. We just started season 3. And that first episode of season 3.
It's a family event. Yeah.
Speaking of Ant-Man in a condom. Oh my goodness.
Can't unsee that. Yeah.
I know. Wowzers. And talk about just grotesque everything, like, heads exploding all the time. And, that show, I really enjoy that show because I like the writing. I like the drama. I like the suspense with the characters. I like the character development.
Yeah.
And then you have, I like the theme. And then you just have some over the top craziness and some grotesqueness that I gotta say, I think I would enjoy the show without all that. It's like, I don't think it's necessary, but wowzers. All right. You guys have seen this, so don't ruin this for me. But in my mind, I'm really hoping Soldier Boy ends up being a good character because he's kind of their knockoff of Captain America. So in my heart, I'm hoping Soldier Boy is a good character because we know how all those Vought superheroes are good characters.
Yeah.
So don't tell me
they all have a heart of gold.
Yeah. Oh my God. John's face is turning red.
I'm just thinking about something that's coming in season 4, because if that was season 3 got you, oh boy. Whoo.
That's right.
Ooh, all right. Let's get back to Deadpool inserting a tracking device in his leg. And then so he goes to spend the night at a recent murder scene. Why do you ask? Because, well, he knows that it's unoccupied. So because he's hiding out, right? So he wants to go where no one can find him. So he goes to a recent murder scene. So, all the dead bodies have been taken away, yellow tape around the thing and everything, but so no one's going to go in there. It's actually kind of smart. It actually reminds me, and I know this came out before Loki season 1, but it kind of reminds me of what that that other Loki was doing to not be found, right? Like going and hiding at places that were about to be destroyed.
I hear you.
All right. So while they're in this place sleeping, and I say they because it's Preston's in his head, in the middle of the night, Wolverine awakens him to warn him that enemies are coming for him. And then this is where it gets all out action, right? You got Deadpool, you got Wolverine battling this team that's coming into the building, doing different kind of like finding different weapons and to use around the house. 6 pages of all out action. Pretty cool. There's one point where Wolverine, there's people climbing a rope outside, and Wolverine just goes out the window with his claws and just cuts the cables, so they all fall. Anyway, so this all going on, and it comes to the point where Deadpool is outside trying to take out Butler's helicopter by trying to shoot it down. And then we cut to the epilogue. And in the epilogue, which is basically just 1 page and this big splash page, we see a naked Deadpool in the tank, one of those Weapon X tanks with all the cables and wires and everything in there. And apparently Deadpool was captured without incident while he slept in that room. So none of that battle scene happened. It was all in his head. And now he's in this tank under the supervision of Dr. Butler, and he's just dreaming away. That is a recap, Deadpool 15.
That was a pretty good first issue.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it pulls you in. If you're a Deadpool fan, I think you're probably enjoying it because it's showing some backstory to Deadpool. And if you're a Wolverine fan, you get to see some Wolverine action. If you're a Cap fan, you're intrigued, but you're like, that wasn't enough. It was just a couple of pages. Not really worth continuing. Hold tight, Cap fans. There's a lot more Cap to come in the following issues.
All right, so we turn now to the next issue, issue 16, and all the same creative team on it, and it opens a bit different because we left that last issue with Deadpool in an immersion tank, but in the very first panel, after of course the recap on the first page, but in the first panel of the story, we see Deadpool in a really festive holiday sweater, standing at the head of a table, carving a holiday turkey. And he's singing Joy to the World. And of course, I'm talking about the Isaac Watts version, not the 1971 Three Dog Night version, right? So we're to presume it's a holiday and he's in a festive spirit and he's there with all his friends. But in the next panel, we see that, in fact, there's nobody else there. It's just a bunch of crash test dummies. And then with a crack of lightning, the scene changes and we see Deadpool standing in the same room at the same table, but now the house is falling apart. The paint is peeling on the wall. The wallpaper is falling down and he's depressed and he's alone. And in that second, we cut to that laboratory again, the one where we saw Deadpool in the immersion tank. And we see Butler standing there looking at the tank. And another character walks in and it turns out this guy is Colonel Jon. And Colonel Jon, interesting guy. He's obviously Asian. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, which is an interesting touch. I like that. And he comes in and the two of them begin talking. And we learn that Butler is working on a program for the North Koreans. It's a weapons program. And Colonel Jon's a little bit upset because it seems to be behind schedule. So he said, don't worry about it. We got it all figured out now that we have we've got Deadpool here and he's not leaving again. But let me show you what it is that we've been working on. And him and Colonel Jon leave. And we're still in the room with Deadpool in the immersion tank. And there's a bunch of techs all around. And we see in the tank one of the tubes that is connected to Wade pop off. And the technician realizes it just a second too late because in a millisecond, Deadpool emerges from that water in the immersion tank and kills the tech. And then he proceeds to kill everyone else in the room, including all of the guards. And this whole time, Agent Preston, who is in his head and who is talking with him, is conversing with him. So they get rid of all these guards, and they're getting ready to make their way out of this facility when they see this locker, and on the locker is written tabula rasa, which basically is Latin for blank slate. And that's this idea that, like, when we're born, our minds are blank, right? And everything we learn, all the knowledge we acquire, is through experience or sensory perception. And Preston figures out that they've been using this really potent military grade drug on Wade Wilson every time they snatch him and pull out his organs in order to wipe his memories clean. So that's why his memory has been so messed up in the previous issues. So, they make their way out of this facility, killing people all along the way. There's this great scene where Wade actually uses his bicep as a silencer, putting the barrel of the pistol up against his bicep and using that to muffle the sound of the muzzle explosion to shoot one of the last guards. And then they exit the facility, and they
All right, Bob, I got to ask a question here.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It was a fantastic scene. It was just out of the usual, right? And I've seen in some movies where somebody uses somebody else's body as a silencer, right? And they'll do that, but I've never seen somebody use their own muscle to do that. Being that you've handled a few weapons in your day, is that even remotely possible?
I mean, I guess. I mean, you could shoot through a pillow and it would help muffle the sound of the bullet leaving the, but certainly not my bicep. You need something. You need something much meatier than that. Maybe a guy like Jon, big guns. You could do that. But for me, no, that ain't going to work. And so I think for most people, it's not going to work. Who knows? Maybe Deadpool's, his tissue is denser than ours, right? I don't know, but yeah, technically, it could have some impact, but at this point, I'm not sure what useful purpose that serves, that they just killed all these other guys making all kinds of noise. So, but it was a nice image anyway.
Yeah.
So they run out of this facility outside, and they think, they're probably someplace in the United States, and they see this gigantic statue of the supreme leader Kim Il Sung, and they realize, oh my God, they're in North Korea. So somehow they got from New York City to North Korea, and now what are they going to do? So as they start working through a plan in their head, Butler comes out of the lab, and he gets Deadpool's attention. And of course, Deadpool's super upset at this guy, and he wants to kill him. And this guy's sort of pleading for his life and trying to make a deal, and trying to impress upon Wade that, look, if you just cooperate, this is going to work out for everybody. And Wade wants to know, like, why have you been doing this? Why have you been snatching and grabbing me and taking my organs? And Butler's like, I'll show you. And he walks him basically downhill to this enclosure that's got barbed wire all around. In this place, we see some really decrepit X-Men. And they look like X-Men anyway, right? So we see a Colossus and a Storm. We see a Banshee. We see a Nightcrawler. We got a Thunderbird and a Sunfire, and I think in a Cyclops as well. But they don't look right. Their uniforms are different. They're black and white, and their bodies are falling apart, much like Wade Wilson's body is deteriorating, with gaping holes and open sores. And Butler explains to him that Deadpool's organs were the last missing piece in trying to figure out how to get X-Men DNA adapted to basically these prisoners that they've been experimenting on. And so they're trying to, like, get the X-Men's capabilities to adapt to these bodies. And the only way they could do it was by harvesting Wade's DNA in order to provide sort of that linkage, that glue to make it work. But clearly, looking at these guys, they also got a little bit of Wade's, problem, where his body is not in the best of condition. So,
I mean, that's diabolical, right? The fact that they're experimenting on people and to make them, I guess, have powers. I mean, heck, we were just talking about the show Boys, but and then using Wade to his genetics to do that. So obviously not good people here.
No, not good people, and they're trying to apparently, put together an army of super soldiers with X-Men like mutant capabilities for the North Koreans. So Deadpool decides then and there he's going to off this guy, right? But the guy has one last card to play. So all these prisoners that they're experimenting on, they have families that are being held hostage. That's what's keeping them from using their powers to basically escape. And Butler tells Deadpool that he's also got his family. And of course, Deadpool's a little bit confused here. But then Butler tells him that, in fact, he's got this woman by the name of Carmelita Camacho, who we met back in issue 13, if you're a Deadpool reader. And the two of them, Wade and Carmelita, had gotten together and had relations in the biblical sense. And a young girl was born, Eleanor. We don't learn her name yet, but a young girl. And Butler has taken both of them, and he's holding them as hostages in order to prevent Deadpool from leaving. And in that moment, when Wade is a little bit stunned by this news, Butler takes the opportunity to pull out a gun and shoot him in the head.
All right, I'm going to pause here because along the way, Agent Preston in his head keeps saying, run for the trees, run, get out of here, run, or shoot him, right? Like she senses the danger, whereas Deadpool is now, being sucked into this because of what, Butler is saying to him. Whereas, he's emotionally invested in this where she is not. And she is, as the agent, going, you either run or shoot him. And regrettably, he didn't listen, and this is what happened.
Right. Yeah. So he gets shot in the head, and in the next scene, on the next page, what we see is darkness, and we only see the word bubbles of Agent Preston, because Wade is out of communicado in his psyche, and so she's trying to wake him up, and finally she gets him to wake up, and he tells her that the girl's name is Eleanor. And he knew about her, and this woman Carmelita had tried to hit him up for child support, and he didn't really answer, and because he didn't think there was any possible way it could be his. And they're having this conversation when suddenly, bam, that North Korean X-Men mutant shows up, and he comes in, and he wants.
Hey, John, I just want to point something out. Only Bob could have done the sound effect "bamf" the way he did. I mean, that was primo.
That was spot
top
on.
notch. Yeah,
absolutely.
I can smell the sulfur from here.
Can you? I'm sorry about that. I had eggs for dinner. But in any case, I digress. So this Nightcrawler shows up, and his real name's Kim. Traditional Korean name, Kim. And so he shows up, and he wants Deadpool's help, right? Because their families are being held hostage. They want to escape, but they have to break their families out of a nearby camp called Camp 23. And so, he's trying to get Wade to talk to him. Preston's yelling at him to communicate with this guy. And Wade's he's out of it. He's not talking. So basically, Preston takes charge of Deadpool's body. So this North Korean Nightcrawler transports Wade out of or Deadpool's body out of his restraints, and the two of them begin to escape this facility. So they're going different ways, getting out of this facility, creeping across the landscape, killing guards along the way, trying to get out to safety. And they enter this warehouse that's all lit up with guards all around it, and they figure out they got to get in there. And so they take two different routes. Deadpool takes the straight ahead route, and this Nightcrawler bamfs his way into the facility. They get in there, and there's this big cabinet that appears locked, and it's the only thing really in this warehouse. And so they go up to it, and it's, of course, secure. But Preston knows how to get into it because this looks like Western Shield technology. And so she enters in the passcode to open it. And as those doors open, all three of them are shocked, because inside, in the immersion tank, in stasis, is Captain America and Wolverine.
What?
To
You don't
be
say.
continued. So that's a pretty action-packed issue, if I dare say.
Yeah, a lot happened.
Yeah.
Lot happened. A lot went on, and we got to see, some more of the backstory too, especially on the Nightcrawler and some of the X-Men, which was interesting to see how they trained the different Nightcrawlers, because he wasn't the only one. And
Right.
basically, they
Yeah.
tied him up to poles and said that we're going to be firing here in a minute if you don't, zap out of this. And the first two did not,
Yeah.
and this one did. Fight or flight kind of kicked in and saved his life. Yeah, cool story.
Yeah. So, I mean, we get the backstory of why they were basically bagging and tagging Wade all these years, trying to harvest his organs, using that information to develop this super soldier army of mutants for the North Koreans. But at the same time, Butler has been, because, Wade's cancer was cured, trying to figure a way to save his sister as well. And Colonel Jong, basically accused Butler of being distracted by the effort to save his sister and not getting this army moving along fast enough. And so we got to look at that army, and they don't look great, but they do have some of those capabilities that their X-Men analogs have. So it'd be interesting to see how they come into play in the rest of the story.
The one thing that really stood out to me, I mean, like you said, action-packed issue, very seamlessly interwove some of that exposition into it as well. But the thing that really grabbed me was what you brought up, Rick, was that page where Kim, he's like, he hears the word trained, and it takes him back to that moment where he was facing death if he didn't use the powers. It was a powerful thing. I had not read these issues until you invited me to come on, and so I don't think I was quite prepared for just how heavy and how dark this kind of stuff was going to get. But that's one of the things that's great about Deadpool as a character in the movies and the comics or whatever is, yeah, he makes a lot of jokes, but there's a lot of tragedy underlying there too.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and it's interesting how we're getting more of the backstory about Deadpool, because I mean, this seems a little bit like a retcon, right? Where they're retconning the fact that his loss of memory is due to this reason, as opposed to something else, and it explains it. It makes sense, and also at the same time, it makes him much more of a tragic character.
For any tragic character, there's room for growth, and so let's see what he does with that tragedy.
All right, so Deadpool number 17, same creative team, which is nice. And we start out like we've had with the other issues with a flashback. And this time it's a flashback for Captain America back to the days of World War II. And this was one of the most powerful pages of the whole book, just starting right out. And you're looking at a prison camp situation, and Cap smashing the flagpole that the Nazi flag is on, and looking at the bodies that are strewn on the truck and saying, "This is why we fight. We must never allow this to happen again." Right there, I felt like that one page just encapsulated so much of what Captain America is about. And I'm sure Rick liked the fact that it wasn't the costume that he's not so much a fan of in this current story.
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't actually even give that a second thought, but I think all your points are actually well made. Yeah, it is a really somber scene, even though, they saved and they won this battle, but to see the massacre of the bodies behind. I also like that kind of opening panel where there's I don't know what kind of vehicle it is. It looks like maybe an officer's car, and it's crunched in the front, and Cap's shield is sticking in it. And you
Yeah.
see Cap walking towards it. So you immediately know, that Cap threw that, took out the vehicle, and now he's going to retrieve his shield. I like that. Like, I don't know if the writers wrote that or if the artist just decided to make this scene that way, but I liked it.
Yeah, that's a good attention to detail. Good catch there.
It is a very good catch. And added with that also is the fact that while everything's kind of this bluish tinge in those two middle panels, Cap is mostly black, white, and red in the coloring scheme. And you can just tell from the facial expression, he is ticked. He is affected by this. And he takes it out on the flagpole. But pressing on, so now we're back to now, and Cap and Logan have been woke up. They're out of their suspended animation, and Deadpool's kind of giving them the heads up on what's going on and that they're in North Korea. So we move on, and now he's telling them about the captives that have been experimented on as well. And they meet Kim, the Nightcrawler mutate, and they basically suit up and they get together with these X-Men. And it's like, okay, it is time for the stuff to hit the fan, to put it mildly. And we can
I pause here quick?
Please.
Wolverine is coming out of the tank, and he's laying on the ground because he's still tied up. And he sniffs, and he's like, "You got to be kidding me. Are we seriously in North Korea?" What the hell kind of sniffer does Logan have? This isn't the first time in this story where he smelled something. He's like, during the whole battle scene, which was in Wade's head still, but it was like, yeah, you've got these guys are out here, these guys are doing this, and so on. And so, man, what kind of sniffer does he have?
He's got the sniffer of a Wolverine, right? Apparently.
All right, so the guys are suiting up, and they're together with the mutate X-Men. And I will just ask a quick question. At roughly page 7, as they're all kind of lined up, and the bottom panel, there's just the mutate Wolverine knockoff guy crashing through this wooden wall or something. And does that look to you guys like he has 4 claws?
He's got the skeletal ones, right? It looks like he has 3, right? Yeah.
Well, it's 3 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 3 and 3.
Okay, so he's punching through both hands. See, thank you. That's what it is. Yeah. I'm like, there's more than 3 claws there.
Yeah.
All the one hand. Thank you. I appreciate that. That makes me feel a lot better. Yep. I was like, there's something going on here. Weird. All right. So they bust through. They've got their meeting going on, and now it's basically time to throw down. And so Deadpool gets bamfed up to the search tower. They've been distracted by Cap's shield laying there on the ground. And Deadpool comes in saying, "I'm Dr. Deadpool, surprise dentist," and it just clocks the guy right in the face. Grabs the gun. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare an actual war. And as you said, Rick, at the beginning of this was in 2013. I mean, North Korea has been a power that's been a concern for a long time, but they're not pulling any punches. The writers and the artists here, they're going straight at it, and that's what he does. He starts just gunning people down. We go to the next page. You have Wolverine giving a lesson to Mutate Colossus about how to throw Mutate Wolverine in a fastball special move.
All right, and for the non-X-Men fans out there, can you explain what a fastball special is?
Okay, so a fastball special is where Colossus will pick up Wolverine and chuck him like he's a large ball, and Wolverine will just go claws first, tearing through everything that's there. And in this case, it doesn't go as planned or as hoped. Yeah, faux Wolverine was not really enthused about this to begin with, but he goes for it, and Mutate Colossus chucks him just a wee bit too far. Was it Bob Uecker? Bob Uecker used to say that just a bit outside.
Yeah.
So Wolverine's like, yeah, just keep at it. Cyclops, or Mutate Cyclops in this case, takes out the stand. And then there are two guards here that decide, if we're going to face this, we're going to need a power up. And so they shoot themselves up rather reluctantly, and they mutate into what I believe are both versions of Rock Slide. Is that what you guys took from it?
Yeah, they kind of, I mean, they kind of look a little bit like a Doomsday from DC.
Yeah, good call. I took it as Rock Slide, figuring because that's an X-Man mutant character, maybe.
Oh, is it?
But,
okay, I'm not familiar.
But yeah, anyway, they're very jagged, they're very strong, they're rather beefy boys.
So this gosh, I'm seeing all these correlations with Boys season 3. Like with Butcher and everything. Like,
absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I'll interject this. Don't know if this needs to go into the episode or not, but I really came around to Gerry Duggan as a writer during the whole Krakoan X-Men thing. And they really take some of these subjects that this arc, at the very least, was touching on years prior, with the whole resurrection protocols of the mutants and what happens with their bodies that are left over and all this other stuff. So it was cool going back and seeing some of this stuff that was being danced with years prior. All right, so back to the thing. We've got the two now faux Rock Slide guards being tackled by Mutate Sunfire, and they end up catching the poor guy and just chucking him right into the barbed wire in what is a rather grotesque end.
mm-hmm.
And then the next page, unfortunately, Mutate Thunderbird doesn't do a whole lot better. But then you have at the very bottom panel the clang, and finally Cap shields come in there, and you turn the page to just an amazing splash page of Captain America catching his shield back, Wolverine hunched over, claws out, and Deadpool armed to the teeth, and they're basically letting him know, yeah, playtime's over.
All right, John.
Yeah,
that splash, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to do the voice of Cap. You do the voice of Wolverine. Ready?
All right.
Your camp has fallen. I urge you to surrender. You don't need to die tonight.
I urge you not to listen to Cap and keep fighting.
I haven't prepared any remarks, so why don't you just do what your heart tells you? Great wrap up of that panel.
That is a really cool page.
Absolutely. So you move to the next page. Great first top panel of the shield with the blur going with it, hitting the guy. Cap just basically goes to town. Wolverine then dives in, claws in, and then from behind, Deadpool just basically sticks him with an explosive. Guy's like, "What did you do?" And he says, "Mount Gushmore." And then there's another gruesome explosion, which pretty much motivates the other guard to start talking. It's like, you know what? I'm done. Tells them where everything is as far as the family members. There is a brief moment where we get the context with Wolverine. This is at a point where his healing factor is no longer there. We're leading up to, I believe, the time where they killed Wolverine for a brief period of time. But since Wolverine has an ouchie, Deadpool does give him a nice little pink Band-Aid. And then, with all of his guns, says he's going to go take down Butler. You go
So
to the
this has got like a feeling of the movie, right? Where the
yes,
two of them are talking to each other, and Wolverine's like, "I'm going to stab you." And he's like, "Oh, poor little Wolvie," and then he does. He puts the pink Band-Aid on it, which looks like a Hello Kitty type of Band-Aid.
it does. It does. I don't know if they had the trademark for Hello Kitty, but it sure does look like it. So you go to the next page. Deadpool's kicking in the door. He's looking for Butler, and then you have a back and forth between him and the agent. Wolverine comes in, and then you flip the page, and Cap is out talking to everyone. They interrogate briefly the rock slide knockoff guard, and then we find out definitely it's Camp 23, sorry, Camp 23, and you're left with the final page being the cliffhanger that Dr. Butler is about to escape. He's getting in the helicopter, and he's basically telling them, "Hey, I don't care what you do with these people, the families, whatever. I've got what I need." And it might be a good point I don't know that we've really delved into this, that they have established in the preceding issues, the whole motivation for Butler here is his sister. It was his sister, right?
It ends up being the sister. We don't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, in the beginning, it's just it could have been his daughter, could have been his wife.
He calls her his
beloved. Yeah.
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 He's a little creepy with the hug in the whole, immersion tank that she's in. So,
right.
You wouldn't be led to believe it's his sister at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of a Batman in the animated series, Mr. Freeze origin kind of story. He's trying to save someone from this disease.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to when Cap was there with the faux X-Men, and he gets out his shield and he puts a leaf in the shield. He turns it upside down. He puts a leaf in the shield. And he says, "First, I stroke the needle with a magnet to magnetize it. Then once it's on the leaf, we're on our way to finding North." Bob, did you ever do that?
I have never done that, Rick.
Have you heard of it?
I haven't heard of doing it on a leaf. No. But I guess it could work. The leaf would have to be, did he suspend it in water? You'd need to have it suspended in water in order to have a medium.
It does look like there's water in the pool. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, in the bowl of the
shield. Yeah. Then that would work.
Yeah.
That would definitely work. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the faux Nightcrawler says, "Fascinating. Where did you learn this kind of wizardry?" And he says, "The Boy Scouts," which would be kind of charming as it is. But then Nightcrawler says, "They seem very powerful."
Yeah, that's a great scene. There's also that we just sort of brushed past it pretty quickly, but when Deadpool slaps that Band-Aid on Wolverine and he runs off to find Butler, and he breaks into the lab that's now destroyed and nobody's there, he has a conversation with Agent Preston that is really quite sad and tragic, right? Where he acknowledges I should say he beats himself up quite a bit, right? He acknowledges his own shortcomings, and he owns his own shortcomings. But I think he goes beyond that, right? And he starts really negative talking, like his role in everything that's happened, almost as if he's a bad person for the way that he's acted, even though he's had very little autonomy over his life. And Preston gets that, right? And she's trying to, talk him down from this emotional cliff, but it's a really, he's at the bottom of the pit now in his psyche, and thinks that he doesn't deserve anything good in his life. So, I mean, it's just a real tragic page that they've written here.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you say the bottom of the pit, more to come on that. Here we go is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Part 4 of 5, Deadpool 18. And this one starts with a flashback. It says then. and it is the Wolverine, basically, when he's escaping from the Weapon X program, and he's running around naked, and in the winter and into the woods in the snow. And so we're basically seeing that flashback, and then it cuts to um, North Korea now, and you see Wolverine with the faux Wolverine and Deadpool running with him, as well as the faux X-Men. And so they're in this main camp, Camp 23, and they're going on, but you could see Deadpool is struggling, and Wolverine helps carry him. And then I like this. It's essentially um, they're running, and you don't see Cap, and then he's like, Captain America is right behind. Huh? Figures. I don't know why I thought I could beat a senior citizen in a foot race. And then there's Cap ahead of them, and he's taking a knee, looking at this camp, and giving a kind of hold signal with his fist. And so inside the inside the camp is Colonel Jong and Dr. Butler, and they receive word that Camp 19 has fallen. And then they learn that Deadpool has been captured. So they go to see the prisoner, and it turns out it's not Deadpool. It is the mutated version of Cyclops. And he lifts up his mask and releases his optic blast. And there's it's a big explosion, Bob. John,
Nice.
you got to see that in person. What did you think?
That was fantastic. I was blown away.
Oh, I get that. I see what you did there.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at this point, Colonel Zhang is about to kill the fake Cyclops, and the real Deadpool shows up with his swords and makes short work of Zhang and kills him. And then the butler goes, and he's running away, getting back into the base. And so at this point, the rest of the team attacks the compound, and then Cap goes, and he sees the families. Right, there's the the, the spouses, the mothers and fathers and children, and all kinds of things, and um, they they have instructions to kill the civilians, and Cap goes and stops it before the flamethrower can go in there and kill all of the people. And then what you hear in the background is a whole bunch of screaming and yelling and banging and slashing and guns firing and all that. And Cap turns, and there's a whole bunch of dead and decapitated soldiers, North Korean soldiers. And so Cap then goes to run to help Deadpool. And then at this point, there's a fight with the faux X-Men, and unfortunately, the fake Wolverine gets shot in the head, and he doesn't have the same type of healing factor that the real Wolverine does, and he certainly doesn't have the antimanium, right? So, with that brain damage, he's going to die, which unfortunately Wolverine has to make the tough choice and put him out of his misery. Then the fake Nightcrawler is reunited with his I don't know, girlfriend, wife, I don't know. And then Deadpool goes on to search for Carmelita and their daughter, if he does have a daughter.
What's her name?
What?
Sorry, just wanted to bring attention. At that point, he's got a sign he's already made up, and it says Carmelita and what's her name?
Yeah. It says, "Sorry, I'm late." But Wolverine does warn Deadpool to not look, and but Wayne at some point finds Carmelita in a mass grave. He goes berserk with grief and with guilt, and he has to end up being restrained by his comrades. And it's a very sad scene, and he blames himself. And then we see Dr. Butler prepares to revive his comatose sister. And then it is to be concluded.
I'll jump in and take us back to when they thought they had captured Wolverine. It ended up being the mutate Cyclops. The bottom panel reveal of that with all the red, the art is just absolutely spot on, but also what he's saying, you gave me these damn eyes, now gaze into them. It's like just a badass moment for this guy and getting his revenge. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, that's a good call out. Yeah, it's a heavy scene.
It's a heavy scene too, to realize that good guys, they didn't rescue everybody, right? A lot of civilians, a lot of innocent families, perished in this issue. And we see their bodies, right? I mean, Wade he sees Carmelita's body, and there are dozens more around her. So they didn't get there in time. So it's not something we often see a lot of as well. And it's, again, just piling on to the tragedy of Wade's life and the mistakes that he's made, because ultimately he put her in that position where she would be scooped up along with Eleanor and put in this hostage position simply to manipulate him. So one more thing he can take the blame for.
One more thing to make him a tragic character. All right, Bob, you get to finish this out with part 5.
All right. So last issue, part 5 of 5, issue 19. It starts with a flashback, and it's Wade in his hospital gown, sitting on his bed, and he's complaining that he wants to die, and he can't take it anymore. And he gets up and he's trying to leave this facility, and presumably this is the Weapons X facility where he went initially, and thought he was cured of his cancer, but he doesn't understand. He's complaining, like, why can't I leave? I've changed my mind. And it's got this really, a large, angry looking nurse looking at him, and she says, it's too late for you to change your mind. Besides, we're doing that for you now. And so that basically encapsulates what we have seen in the previous 4 issues, that they have been manipulating not only his thoughts, but his memories, in his very sense of who he is, where he comes from, where he belongs. And so with that, we jump ahead to the current time, and we see Cap and Deadpool and Wolverine, and they're standing outside of this bunker vault door that's heavily armored, and it's locked, and they can't get in. And Butler's in there, presumably with his sister, and they've got to figure a way to get in there. So they split up essentially, with Cap going topside because they hear the troops starting to come closer, and it sounds like they're bringing tanks. And so he heads up there to head off the army, while Wolverine and Deadpool try to figure a way to break into this vault. And there's a little bit of discussion going on. Of course, one, it's a practical matter that Cap goes up there to hold off the North Korean army. Who else could do that? But the second thing, and both of them recognize this, that this is the sort of thing that they have to do, because Cap can't be there when they do what they need to do. And so this gives him an opportunity, one, not to be involved in it, but two, quite frankly, not to stop them from doing what they have to do. And so they each have a role to play. So Wolverine, he takes off because he's going to go find some explosives in order to try to blow this door. And as Wade is sitting there, that vault door clicks opens up just long enough for him to walk in, and then he proceeds inside. And there's a long walkway that takes from that door to this glassed in immersion room, this safe room. It's almost like that one, if you remember from the original Avengers movie that they put Loki in, and they had Hulk in for a while. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that heavy.
Very
you know,
reminiscent of that.
Yeah,
It's also
circular
reminiscent
glass.
of what they put Magneto in.
Yes, yes. So Deadpool can't get in there, and the whole walkway is booby trapped. Additionally, with all sorts of defense measures, and so he's standing there. Deadpool on one side, Butler's on the other with his sister, and Butler's still trying to convince him that this is all for the best. That if he would just cooperate, we could work this out. Everybody would be happy. He could save his sister. Deadpool would be happy. Everything would be great. Wolverine shows back up, but he can't approach him because, again, he knows that everything is booby trapped. And Wade begins to tell the story of his escape from the Weapons X facility and the first people he ever killed at a police station. And he realizes that, of course, it wasn't really him. It was his broken psyche at the time. And he talks about this story, and he talks about how Butler subsequently covered it all up by blaming one of the other cops that was in the facility at that time, and saying that this other police officer had a mental breakdown and killed everybody with a hammer. And so he's telling these stories of the terrible things that Butler had done. And it turns out it doesn't really seem like he's talking to Butler, that maybe he has a bigger audience. And as he's having this discussion, topside, we see again Cap, and he is standing out in a big open field, and the entire North Korean army is facing him with tanks, and the soldiers don't know quite what to do. They're a little bit timid about going against Cap, which tells you a little bit about Cap's reputation, even in a place as remote as North Korea. So it's a bit of a stalemate topside. Down below, Wade is still talking to Butler, and basically going through this litany of accusations about Butler had done. And we see in the background Butler's sister get up and hit the button to open the door to the immersion facility, the containment facility. And Deadpool is able to get in very quickly, grab Butler, break his arm, and then very, very deftly snap his neck, killing him on the spot. And so it may have been, of course, all along that he wasn't really talking to Butler, but he was talking to Butler's sister and letting him know what kind of D-bag this guy really is, right? And she made the decision to open that door and end him. And as it turns out, she doesn't really even know who he is. So maybe the same drugs that they were using on Wade, they were using on her, because she doesn't really know if that's even her brother. She has no recollection. So they have a little bit of a discussion. She decides that she's going to stay there and just face her death patiently and with courage, because, as Wade tells her, the mushroom clouds are coming. But Preston advises Wade to collect as much evidence as possible about Butler. So he collects a bunch of evidence, and him and Wolverine depart. They meet Cap upstairs. They start walking toward the North Korean front line. And like the Red Sea, the soldiers just part wide open and let these three guys pass right through without trying to assault them one bit. And as they walk through, Deadpool pushes the igniter, blows up the nuclear weapon, destroys the bunker behind them, and that is the end of the facility. So in the last part of this book, we see the three of them in Tokyo, and they're all in civilian attire at this point. And we see a little bit of a change, right? And because we remember back in issue 1, when Wade went to Wolverine and when he went to Steve to try to get some help, they were kind of dismissive of him, right? A little bit, sort of like he's always in trouble. You can never tell when he's serious, and telling him to get his act together and fly straight. But here, there seems to be a shift in their relationship. There's a little bit of more of a mutual respect. They look at Wade a little bit differently. And he's going to try to find Agent Preston a body and reunite her with her family, and maybe find Eleanor as well, because she was not at that facility. And so we don't know where she disappeared to. So Wolverine leaves, Steve leaves, and Preston is left, and Wade is left by himself with his thoughts with Preston, committing again to trying to help her out. And then at the final page of this series, this arc, we see another character that looks a lot like Agent Preston in New York City. but this time it's an ex-agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she seems to be up to no good. So I don't know where this story is going to take us in the next issue, but it looks really exciting, and I think I might even read it.
Yeah, it'd be good to check that out. Nice recap, Bob. And I would say too that I really liked the interaction between Steve and Wade at the end. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Steve is showing empathy. He's showing a mutual sign of respect. And he calls him he says my friend. So
which is a nice callback because back in one of the previous issues, I believe when Logan and Cap get, out of the big refrigerator boxes or whatever, and Deadpool uses the word friend, and both of them, Cap and Wolverine, both at the same time chime in, not friends.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
They do. And
Yeah.
so you're right. It symbolizes this whole arc that's going on. And since we've talked about spoilers being the case, spoilers, if you go on and read Duggan's Uncanny Avengers books that come after this, you really start to see Cap and Deadpool's relationship continue on and the mutual respect grow.
Yeah. And when was the Uncanny Avengers where Cap was leading that and Deadpool was in it? Was that before or after this?
I believe they both came after. There's been at least two different series. I know the one that ties in with the whole fall of X, end of the Krakoan era came because that was just in the past year or two. But I think all of the Uncanny Avengers with Deadpool and Cap both in it have come after this. I think, but I'm sure some of our Facebook fans will chime in and let us know.
Yep. All right. Overall, thoughts on the complete story. Where does this, you know, where is this? Would you recommend this story? To pick it up and for people to take a look at it. Because of the art. Would you, are you? I guess the big compliment that Bob gave is I want to keep reading. So thoughts?
Yeah, well, personally, I don't think I've read perhaps one Deadpool story in my entire life. So this was kind of a first to read a whole arc, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was smart. I thought the art was enticing, and I enjoyed it. It was not only action packed. But I like a little bit of depth to my stories, and this sort of redemptive arc, or at least the beginning of one, and not even a redemption, but an arc of discovery, of self-discovery for Wade, really sort of hit me in the feels. And like you mentioned, I like the way that the relationship with Logan and Steve also evolved throughout this arc. So for me, there was a lot to get out of this story, a lot to enjoy. And yeah, I would definitely would like to keep reading this volume to see where these characters end up.
I agree wholeheartedly. For me, the hallmark of a really good quality writer, especially for one of the big two, is to be able to tell a story where you can distinctly get each of the characters' voices. This was definitely, you could tell each character, Wade, Cap, Wolverine, they had a different vibe, a different persona to them. But the other thing that I think is equally as powerful, equally as stand out, is if you're working for one of the big two and you can create new characters and get your readers invested in them too, because I was very invested and moved by each of these experimented upon Korean prisoners and what all had been done to them. I give high scores to the writing team as well as the art team because it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's all good points. I agree with you guys. I did enjoy the story. I think, in addition to what you said, John, another hallmark is of a good writer is that, hey, none of us were reading this series, and we were able to jump right in and get right up to speed and enjoy the story. Like, we jumped right in, and it wasn't like, we weren't lost, we weren't confused. It was, easy to follow. So I think that's another hallmark of a good writing as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Rick. And I think it's one, that can be often overlooked, how important that is, when you're, particularly if you're trying to entice new readers to a title or a character, that they can jump in like that. So yeah, super important.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, this was fun. Thanks for John for joining us to do this recap. We always enjoy when you come on the show. And I gotta tell you, John, I know you don't listen, but
That's not true.
next
That is not
episode,
Okay, my
next
wife tells me the
episode,
same thing.
we are 203. We are covering a one-shot story. It's an Avenger story, but it's Curse of the Man Thing, which is written by Steve Orlando, which we're going to have on the show in a couple episodes from now. So we thought, hey, we do a Steve Orlando book. Anyway, I read this in a Curse of the Man Thing, and of course, it makes me chuckle back to the days of the store. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, for real quick, Steve Orlando, looking forward to listening to that episode as well. Steve Orlando killing it on Scarlet Witch. But aside from that, yes, way back in the day of comic books, etc. I distinctly remember meeting an entrepreneur and him relating a story to me about how he had asked a customer once if they would be interested in seeing his giant sized man thing. And at that moment, I was like, this guy and I are going to become friends.
This was, of course, before the Me Too movement. So
yes,
yeah.
yes. Well, to be fair, he was saying it to another guy. So
not that there's anything wrong with that.
How many pop culture references can we work into one time?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that story, I'm sure, in next episode for Avengers Curse of the Man Thing. Looking forward to that. Anyway, any final words, any final comments from the Peanut Gallery? The Manny Mo and Jeff. I don't know. Like what was our three names again?
I don't think we actually settled on any. So
all right, I put that up to the listeners.
Yeah.
Listeners, you need to come up with a three names, something that is familiar, that fits with the three of us.
Oh my goodness!
I have thrown the gauntlet.
This is fantastic. I had a great time as always. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
You're a wonderful guest, John, and I hope you come back many times.
Thank you so much.
All right, he's Jon Waller Sewell, and he is Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and you know what? If you get a chance, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening. If you're on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button. Make sure to leave a comment on YouTube. Make a comment on Apple. Make a comment wherever you are. We always enjoy those. And as always, we really appreciate you listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.